doesn't sound very exciting, does it? And yet, it's a wonderful world that I discovered or was shown when I was a young man of about 29 years old. I was working for a computer company. I'd been doing pretty well, and they said I'd been selected to go on a particular training course. And this was a course that everybody in the sales field wanted to go on. They'd heard about it. The people who'd been on the course weren't allowed to tell them what the course was about. So it was a kind of a secret place, almost an initiation. I looked forward to going on it, and along with about 20 other people, I went off to this big country house, and we sat in a room together, and at the back of the room, as well as the 20 of us, there were about 15 other people sitting at the back of the room with notepads, and they were silent, and we had a couple of instructors at the front of the class. And for the first 2 days, those instructors talked to us. They gave us tasks to go to perform in individually and in groups. And they didn't really tell us what they were trying to teach us. So at the beginning of the third day, they started to unveil what the course was all about and what they'd been observing in terms of our own behaviors. And they'd been giving us group tasks. One of the areas that they talked to us about was how we performed as individuals within a group and how the group itself performed. And they introduced us to a concept of group dynamics. And I don't think any of us really understood. We were all used to going into meetings. We were all used to being active participants in a discussion. We were used to people throwing a task at us and saying, go away and go and do that, come back with answers. That was kind of normal. That was our daily work. But they introduced us to this particular concept called forming, norming. No, it wasn't. It was forming, storming, norming, and performing. So each of those. So forming is when you go into a room and meet other people. Storming is when you don't really know them and you think they might be competitors or not really, they're not people you relate to. So there's a certain amount of storming because we were all salespeople and we were all naturally individuals and we were all naturally competitive. So that was the forming, storming. And then after, because we were there for a couple of days before they talked to us about this, we kind of got to know each other and we knew each other's strengths and weaknesses. And that's what they called norming. That's when you get to know someone or other people in your group and you can kind of decide on what you're going to do within that group to make that group effective. And as you might expect, out of the 20 of us, there were 4 groups of 5 people in each group, and they'd been making those 4 groups compete with each other to effectively win each individual task. So we'd learned about forming, storming we'd observed, norming we'd observed, and then they said, so now you guys are reaching the point, or ladies as well, of performing. We've learned to work together as a team. And we did work together as a team. And it was really interesting once they made us aware of these concepts of how we could function as a team. And then the next thing they did was scramble up the people who up until then had all been in the same team. And they said, right, you go into that team, you go into that team. And we finished up with still 20 of us, but then we were in different teams. So immediately we joined those new teams, we were aware of the fact that we were going to probably go through this process of forming, storming, norming, and performing. But we went through it much more quickly because we were conscious of that process. And we very quickly bonded and we very quickly became part of an effective team. Now, if you think about it from a company's point of view, that's what they want people to do. Let's say, as a child, you go into a class in a school, they put you in a particular form year. You're going to spend maybe some weeks trying to get to know the other kids in that group. There'll be kids who are dominant, kids who are withdrawn and passive, and so on and so on. And it's going to take a while for all those children to sort themselves out. And unfortunately, even the teachers themselves aren't aware of this forming, storming, norming, performing dynamic, which group psychologists are aware of. So they don't really, a good teacher, an experienced teacher, will see what's going on. They'll help different children to integrate with the rest of the group. They'll try and make sure that everybody at least feels included somehow. If not with the whole group, then with 2 or 3 or 4 individuals within that group, so that they themselves can have a happy childhood. Now, there's probably some of you out there for whom that never really worked, and you went through school and you may even have hated it, or it may have taken quite some time as you went through the school and moved up into different years. When your class changed, you met a different group of people and you got lucky and you integrated with that group of people. So your life went on, and eventually you left school and maybe you went to university. When you go to university, it's a much looser association of people. You're not banged up in the same class with the same 20 odd kids or 30 kids, and then you have to live and work with those people year after year after year. University is much looser, and you have much more freedom, potentially, to choose the people that you're going to integrate with. And you don't even have to integrate as a group, because university is a much more individual type of environment. So I said at the beginning that this was going to be about analogies. Well, it isn't really, if you think about it. So far, I haven't really covered analogies and the power of analogies. But what I have talked about is groups and group dynamic. And I think group dynamic is a kind of precursor, if you like, something that's important to understand before we can move on to the next phase of this analogy type discussion. So what I've hoped to establish with you is that people, that's you and I, we are herd animals. We are social creatures. We have a hunger within us. We have a need to be part of a group. And achieving that, if you are conscious of how you can achieve it, you're going to look at this, you're going to say to yourself, where am I in this dynamic? I'm joining a new group. Where am I in the forming, storming, norming, and performing? Can I bypass some of this storming and look at a way of norming with other people so that between us we can get into performing? So that's the thought I want to leave you with this short section. Forming, storming, norming, performing. How good are you at that? In the forming, how good are you at people seeing you, who you are, and understanding who you are, so that they don't storm with you in a negative way, that they see you as potentially an ally? Pass through storming quickly, it's a non-productive phase. And then norming. Get smart at norming with people. Get smart at finding strengths and weaknesses and aligning. And then get effective at performing and working together in a team and adding your value, but understanding the incredible value that other people can add to you. So that's it for the moment. And the next phase will be, I think, I'm expectation setting here, I think I will be able to get into analogies. Thanks.